What am I getting myself into? Hi friends, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Claire and this is Claire's Neverland of Books. Today, I'm bringing you guys a huge unhaul. I have got stacks of books sitting behind me. I have nearly 150 books to unhaul. So, buckle up, grab a drink, a snack. We're gonna go through this as quickly as possible so that I can make this not an hour-long video, because I don't want to edit that. I don't want to force you guys to watch that. So, let's get into it. Always at the end of the year, I tend to look at my shelves and decide if things should be taken off. So, I have been doing that over the last few weeks, and I've compiled a huge stack of books. So, these are books that are either I'm just no longer interested in reading, or I've read them and didn't love them enough to warrant keeping them on my shelves, or I have multiple copies of them. And I'm trying to get better about not having so many editions of the same book. There are exceptions to that, but these are not the exceptions. So let's just dive into it. Okay, first up, we have the entire Kingdom of the Wicked and Second Sins series from Carrie Maniscalco. I have special editions from Fairy Loot. I don't need duplicates. These are the Barnes & Noble covers, so they're all just like a different colorway. I just don't need multiple sets of this series. I really love this series. I still need to read the spin-off, but I really loved Kingdom of the Wicked, so I need to get to these ones soon, but I don't need multiple copies of them. So I'm happy with my Fairy Loot special editions. Next is another duplicate set, and that's the Fortuna Sworn series. These are the Bookish Box editions, and I also have the Fairy Loot editions. I don't need two sets of them, especially because I've only read book one, so I really need to prioritize this series and decide if I also want to keep the Fairy Loot set, or if I will eventually unhaul those too. So these are getting taken off because I decided to pick the prettier set, and I like the Fairy Loot set better than the Bookish Box set, so we're keeping that one. Another unhaul due to special editions is Blood and Steel and Vow of Ruins. I got the Blood and Steel from Moonlight book box, which is a really pretty special edition, and I do believe, I think Fairy Loot is doing the new book that's coming out, I think, for the Romantasy box, which means that they probably are going to be doing this series at some point. So I would much rather have a Fairy Loot edition than these editions, so I'm taking these ones off my shelves too. Oh, another Throne of the Fallen. This was the Waterstones edition. One that was hard for me to decide on, because when this book was announced, I got every edition that I could get my hands on. So I had 7 or 8 copies, I think, of the first book, and then I did the same with book 2, and I've decided that I just don't need the standard editions anymore for that, and that is Empire of the Vampire and Empire of the Damned. So this is just the standard US edition. I think it's signed because all of his first editions were signed. Yeah, it's signed. But I have the Waterstones, I have the Goldsboro, I have the Forbidden Planet. I don't need, the Illumicrate. I don't need that many editions of it. So I'm getting rid of the standard edition of Empire of the Vampire, the standard edition of the Empire of the Damned, and the indigo cover of Empire of the Damned. So I'm keeping the Barnes & Noble editions of the standard US editions, but other than that, I'm getting rid of these ones. Let's pull from this side now. Next, I have books that I think could just be Kindle reads. I don't need to have them physically. These are mostly like romance books. So I listen to a lot of romance on audio, and I read them on KU. And I find that I love them at the moment that I'm reading them, and then I want them physically, but then I think about it later and I'm like, that author can just be a KU author. On my Kindle, it doesn't need to come into my house. So I'm categorizing this stack-ish as that. There's some that are unread, but I feel like I could just listen to them on audio. So let's start. We've got Go Hex Yourself and What the Hex by Jessica Clare. I got these because I think this is a Raylo inspired book, and I am a sucker for anything Raylo. So I picked it up. I haven't read it. Haven't read book 2. I think they're like interconnected standalones, but I mean, I'm still interested in them. Like I said, I'll probably pick them up on audio eventually or through my library. And if they end up being like 5 out of 5 stars, annotating, want to keep them in my collection, I can always pick them up later, but I just don't need them in my collection right now. Next, we have a couple from Elle Kennedy. I don't think I have any more from her currently, but we have the Good Girls Complex and the Bad Girls Reputation. Read this book, loved it, gave it 5 stars, haven't continued on, but Elle Kennedy, these ones specifically don't need to be on my shelves. I have like the Briar U series and the Off Campus series that I still have on my shelves. I'm deciding if I want to unhaul those eventually. But right now, we're just going to stick with her not hockey romances unhauling. Another Raylo fanfic, My Roommate is a Vampire by Jenna Levine. Haven't read it. Probably will eventually on audio, like I said. I just don't need to keep it on my shelves. It's taking up space that I can put books that I'm very excited about on. These are a couple from my friend. She was clearing off her shelves and was like, if you want any of them, take them. Or if you want to take them to like half price books, take them. And that was the offer in the pack by Karina Halley. I love Karina Halley. And I loved these books when I read them back in like 2015. They're like Scottish romances. They're fun. Love them to death. But I just don't need physical copies on my shelves. A couple more Katie Roberts. Like I think I said in the past, I'm slowly dwindling down my Katie Roberts collection. She is a Kindle read for me. So I just don't need them physically. These are Desperate Measures and Dark Restraints. So these can go off to better homes. Next I have Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. This is like the pretty like, I think it's 10-year anniversary edition. I don't know. It's some special annotated edition. It's pretty. I never read this book. I don't know if I would like it. I probably would, but like I said, I think that this is just doesn't need to be on my shelves now. It doesn't represent what I'm currently reading in romance anyways. So if I ever want to try it again in the future, I'll do that via my library or KU or audio. Next, I have 5 books from the Ice Planet Barbarian series. I read book 1. I think I gave it 3 stars. I had a really fun time with it. These are really good like palette cleanser alien romances. And I read book 1 and unhauled it a while ago. And then I went to Europe last summer and we went to London, and in Forbidden Planet they had these 4. They were all signed and had like little stickers like attached to them. And so I picked them all up on my trip and was like, oh, well, I guess I'll start collecting these again. Have yet to read any of them. Like I said, they'll be Kindle reads. So these can definitely go find a new home with someone who will enjoy them and cherish them. Ooh, the stack of manga I've got are all unread. So they're just ones that I picked up at some point and sounded intrigued to read them. But now I'm just no longer interested in them. So I have Your Forma Volume 1. This was like some type of like technology type story. It had intrigued me at the time and I'm just no longer interested in it. I have Pandora 7 Volume 1, which is like something about Pandora's box and you never want to open it. It gets opened and I think it brings in a bunch of fantasy elements into a world. Picked it up on a whim, probably during like a buy 2 get 1 free at Barnes & Noble sale, and just am no longer interested in it, so it's just been sitting on my shelf unread. Also along those lines, I have The Boxer and Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation, the comic, volumes 1. These were coming out right when manhwas really started getting popular in the last couple of years, and Yen Press launched their own sub-press called Is Press, where they were producing all the manhwas, and then Seven Seas also. And so I picked these up on a whim because I have gone down the manhwa rabbit hole, and these ones just haven't called to me to pick up, so figured I'd give them to a better home. A couple other ones that I've picked up probably in the buy two get one free sale are Bad Boys Happy Homes volumes 1 through 3, and then A Strange and Mystifying Story volumes 1 through 3. Volumes 2 and 3 for both of these are still wrapped. Like, I haven't even opened them. I only opened volumes 1. I'm no longer interested in these boys' love. And then this one's a light novel that I picked up on a whim. Me and my friend went through like 10 bookstores in a day for my birthday a couple years ago, and we traveled like a couple hours away and hit a bunch of half-price books and Barnes & Nobles in the area. And this one was a light novel that I picked up on a whim. And I don't read light novels. I've started reading a few, but I'm like very particular about them. And this one just doesn't pique my interest anymore, so I'm deciding to unhaul this one too. While we're talking about manga, these ones are all ones that I've read and probably just gave like a 3.5, 3-star or lower rating, and I just don't need to keep them on my shelves anymore. I enjoyed them, had a good time, but these can just go to someone else who will enjoy them more and cherish having them on their shelves. I have, Is This the Kind of Love I Want? Oh, this was about a guy who came out as gay to his girlfriend. Obviously they broke up. They moved out from the same house and he moved in with a friend, and it was basically like they just fell into a relationship together, but they never put labels on it or anything like that. It was really cute, really sweet. I loved it. Had a really good time. It was like a high 3.5 star, but I just don't need to keep it on my shelves. Next I have Jealousy Binds Love. This was about a like pianist who was like a national champ level pianist and a guy that was like his biggest fan, and the pianist didn't want to do it anymore because his mom had passed away and she was the reason why he was doing it. It was a very like heartfelt, emotional story. I had a really good time with it. Don't need to keep it on my shelves. Same with these next few. I have a Complicated Omega Second Love that was along the same lines. It was like a second chance. Wolfpack I read recently. It was just a flat 3-star rating. It wasn't anything mind-blowing. It was just fine. Moon and Sun volumes 1 and 2. I don't really remember much. Yakuza Syndicate in it. And I think that there was like a escort club too involved in this one. It was like a very like mid of the road series for me. And then Whales of the Bound I recently read too, and it just wasn't the story that I was looking for. Gave it 3 stars. Don't need to keep it. Then I have volumes 1 and 2 of Revenge Mrs. Wrong, and this is about a girl whose sister always makes her like stand in for her because she doesn't want to do the things that she's being asked to do, and so she makes her sister like stand in for her to get married, and her sister ends up doing it and really likes the guy, so she sticks with it and doesn't want to give up the relationship or the lie, and starts taking revenge on her sister for all the things she's made her do. This was a fine volume. I never read volume 2. Like, I think this was like one of my first reads of 2024, and I like have yet to pick up this one, so these are coming off the shelf. Next I have, it's like a complete manga set. It's called My Boss is a Giant. He Manages My Every Need with His Enormous Skills. And it was just a fun, cute workplace romance. Read it, gave it 3.5 stars. Won't ever read it again. Gonna unhaul it to a better home. Then I have Alpha Wolf Girl and Omega Wolf Boy Volume 1. Along the same lines. Had a good time. I do think this was also a like workplace romance, Omegaverse, and I really enjoy Omegaverse, but this one just wasn't it for me. Next, I'm gonna butcher this name, but I think it's Hitorjimi Boyfriend, and then the My Hero volumes 1 through 3 for it. This is a really popular anime. I can't remember, but I know it's really popular and well loved, and I read the first like one shot to it and it was fine. But I just have not prioritized it and picked up the rest of the series, so I'm just going to unhaul this one and give it to a better home. Alright, so some more of books that'll probably just be Kindle reads. I have Body Check by Elle Kennedy. This is one of her first hockey romances. It came way before the off-campus series and the Briar U series. This was just recently repubbed through Harley Quinn, and I had picked it up. I pre-ordered it and just haven't picked it up, and it can just be a Kindle read. And then I have Good Boy and Stay by Elle Kennedy and Serena Bowen. I've read from them before, their duo before, and really enjoyed it. This was just a repub with some sprayed edges, and it just doesn't need to be on my shelves. I'm being really harsh with these, and I apologize if any of these are your guys' favorites. It's nothing against the book. It's just, I'm not going to read them anytime soon, so I'm just going to let them go to a better home. Next, I have one that was a 5-star read, one of my favorites when I read it, and that's Spoiler Alert by Olivia Dade. Absolutely adore this book with my whole heart. I just don't need a copy of it anymore on my shelves. And then I have unhauled basically all of my Tessa Bailey books except for Hook, Line, and Sinker, and I think it's time to unhaul this one. This one's been my favorite that I've read from her. I adore her books, but they are fun time, in one ear, out the other reads. This is the only one that stuck with me to this day, and I was holding on to it for that reason, but I just don't need to hold on to it anymore. Some might be a shocker for some of you. Some JLA books, Jennifer L. Armentrout. This was her like contemporary like college romance series that she published, and it got like rebranded recently. It's Wait For You, Be With Me, and Stay With Me. I just am not in my college romance era anymore, and I haven't reread these, so I just don't need them on my shelves anymore. Next, we have an author who I have had very meh responses of her books, and I've had 5-star, broken heart, all the tears, love to death, and that is Lauren Asher. She is just going to be a Kindle Unlimited author for me. I read the fine print when it first went like viral all over the place, and I was so disappointed with it. I gave it 3 stars, did not love it like I was expecting to, and then I read Terms and Conditions, really, really loved that one. I think that was my favorite. And then I read Final Offer, and I had just read another book that had the same premise of this, which was addiction and coming over being an alcoholic. And the other book, in my opinion, did it better, and I read it first, so I gave that one more of a shot. So then I literally went right into this one, and I was like, it's reading the same story over again, basically, just different couples. And it just didn't hit like it hit for everybody else. It ended up being a very like middle of the road series for me, and I've just been picking up all her books as they've been getting traditionally published. Like I picked up the whole Dirty Air series so that I could get the matching spines that line up to be the F1 car, and I gave Throttled like 3.5 stars and have yet to continue the series. So we're just going to DNF it and unhaul these and give them to a better family. Same with her Lakefront Billionaire series. I have yet to read these. I've been picking them up through like the Barnes & Noble pre-order sale because I enjoy her books a lot. I do love them, but she's just going to be a KU author for me now, and that's okay. We got to normalize that we don't need to own every book we read because no one has space for that. I wish I had space for that, but I don't. So these are coming off the shelves. Next is an author that is not a great person, and I got all these secondhand through Half Price Books, so that was the only reason why I had picked them up. But as they've sat on my shelves longer, I just don't want to read them, and I'm out of my fantasy era, and that is, I have Affinity for Steel by Sam Sykes. This is the Aeon's Gate trilogy, which is one of my best friend's like favorite series, so I really wanted to give it a try, and I'm just not in my fantasy era. And then I have books 1 and 2 from the Grave of Empires series. I don't need these either. So I read most of my fantasy on audio anyways, so if I do ever want to read them, it would be through my library. Plain and simple. Next I have from Broken Binding. I have recently pulled off a lot of my Broken Binding sets, and I've been getting rid of a lot of them. I have the Chronicles of the Wolf Queen series by them that I'm going to be unhauling. I just am not in my fantasy era. I really should unsub from Broken Binding, but I'm not going to because I have great friends that are interested in the books that are coming out, so I can sell them to them basically at cost of what it costs me to get the subscription. So I'm not losing money on the subscription, and I just know that the moment that I do go to unsubscribe from them, they're going to do a series that I really want. i.e. Nevernight. I think they're going to do Nevernight at some point, and I need special editions of that series. So another one from Broken Binding is Sons of Darkness by Grahav Mohanty. I'm out of my fantasy era. I just am not reading it, so I don't need to keep it on my shelves when I know that if I do, it's just going to be an audiobook, and it's probably not going to hit like it'll hit for other people. Unhauling it to give it to a better home. Then I have The Jasad Heir by Sarah Hashem. This was, I think, an Illumicrate book from last year. I'm just not interested in it anymore, so I'm not going to keep it on my shelves. Next we have Bloodguard by Cece Robson. We were supposed to buddy read this with Mel's Patreon, and everyone hated it, and it didn't sound like something that I would like. So I've decided to unhaul it without reading it. It's the first edition. It can go to someone else who will enjoy it better. More fantasy books that I have yet to read, and that's Empire of Exile and Relics of Ruin by Erin M. Evans. I'm just out of my fantasy era. That's all I have to say. There's nothing more to say. I wish that I was in my fantasy era still, because I love a good fantasy book. Brandon Sanderson's about all I have the capacity for. Some more romance. I'm unhauling The Vengeance of the Pirate Queen by Trisha Levenseller, only because I have the special editions from Fairy Loot of the first two books, so I'm hoping that they'll do this one at some point. It's the first edition with the sprayed edges. I'm going to give it to my sister because she really loves Trisha Levenseller too. So we're just taking it off my shelves and putting it on my sister's shelves. Another one that I think was comp to Raylo, and that's A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon by Sarah Holly. Holly? Just not reading contemporary right now, so, and if I do, it's going to be on audio. And then I have Broken Miles by Claire Kingsley and on a Limb by Hannah Bowen Young. These were special editions through Hello Lovely, and I just don't need to keep them on my shelves. I love Claire Kingsley, but she is a KU author for me. Like, truly, I adore her books. They're so much fun. I binge them, the whole series at a time, but I just don't need them on my shelves. And then I haven't read Out on a Limb. Probably read it on audio at some point, but just don't need them on my shelves anymore. This is very repetitive, I know, but it's honestly the truth and why we're unhauling so many books. Next, speaking of Brandon Sanderson, is a series. It's the Skyward series. I own these all on Audible, which is how I'll finish the series when I finally get to it. I've only read Skyward. I got like a quarter of the way through, I think, Starsight, and I had like put it down for no specific reason, not like I was hating it or anything, I just got distracted. But I just don't need to keep all these books on my shelves. They take up so much space that could be used for other books that I really, really want on my shelves. We're getting rid of this one. It pains me, but at the same time I need to be realistic, and I'm kind of out of my sci-fi era. We're not going to talk about the Expanse series because those will never come off my shelves, but this one's okay. More books to unhaul due to having other editions, and I have the first 3 books in the Bridge Kingdom series, the new covers. I ordered the Arcane editions, so I don't need paperback editions as well. When I have special editions coming next year, we're just gonna unhaul it and call it a day, because I need to get a lot better at not having multiples of series, especially ones I have not read yet. So these are coming off the shelf. Along those same lines, I have Curse of Shadow and Thorns and The Everking by J.L. Andrews. I have special editions of both of these books, so I don't need the original paper copies of them. I just don't. I don't have space for it. So we're unhauling these strictly due to that and calling it a day. More along those lines, I picked up the Target edition of Six Scorched Roses because I was like, I need to have every edition of it. I don't need every edition of it. So I'm just keeping the normal original edition that just came out. We're unhauling this one. Plain as day. No other explanation needed. Next I have Done and Dusted. This was the Logan's Library exclusive edition with Eternal Embers. I bought it because at first I did not like the covers of Done and Dusted at all. I didn't like the artwork and I didn't want the cover, but I loved the book. So then they did this collaboration. And I was like, oh, perfect. But I have grown to love the covers now, so I don't want this one anymore. So we're unhauling this one. A duplicate that I have is Where's Molly by H.G. Carlton. It's a misprint, and my other copy is still a misprint too, but when she first published this book, there was an issue with the document, and so it printed wrong. Like, it's missing the next page after the chapter titles, and so one, I don't need 2 copies of misprinted on there, but I should get rid of them both, but we're just gonna get rid of one. More duplicates, Half a King, The Half King by Melissa Landers. I have the Fairy Loot edition, but I pre-ordered the Red Tower standard edition. I don't need 2 copies. We're keeping the Fairy Loot because I do like that edition more. Unhauling the standard edition. Oh, I have some more manga. I forgot. These are going to my friend Lexi from Books with Lexi. These are Junji Ito books that I have read and enjoyed, but they were like 3 stars, and I decided to unhaul all my 3 stars and under. So I have Censor, The Liminal Zone, Love Sickness, and then Junji Ito's Cat Diary, which is just a little short story about his cats and crazy things that happened. This was really cute, loved it, but I just don't need them on my shelf anymore, and I know that she's collecting all of Junji Ito, so I figured that they can go to her in a better home. More and more duplicates. We're back in the duplicate stack. So we have The House in the Cerulean Sea and Somewhere Beyond the Sea by T.J. Klune. I have numerous special editions of these, of this one specifically. I have numerous special editions of this one, and none of this one yet, but I have one coming. So I have the Illumicrate edition of this, and they had this and one of the other books go on sale, and I should be getting them soon. They were supposed to come in October, I think, so they're a little delayed. But these are just the like standard hardcover editions with sprayed edges. I bought them because of the sprayed edges, and I don't need them just because of the sprayed edges. So I love this series with my whole heart more and more. Kiki's Delivery Service. I have the really pretty special edition from Fairy Loot coming, so I don't need this edition. Plain and simple. Same with The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. I was so surprised with this book. I loved it. Absolutely adored it. I got it through Book of the Month forever ago when it came out, when I was still subscribed to Book of the Month. And they are coming out with a really pretty like sprayed edge edition of this in January. So I have that pre-ordered and we'll be getting that soon. So I don't need this one on my shelf anymore. Next I have The Graham Effect and the Dixon Rule by Elle Kennedy, strictly because I have the bookish box edition of this, which means, and they've done all of the off-campus and Briar U series, so I know that they will continue this series, so I'll just get them in that edition in the future. So I don't need the paperback editions. This one, you're gonna go, Claire, what are you doing? Why are you unhauling more Brandon Sanderson, especially Stormlight Archives? And the answer is, I'm unhauling the paperback because I'm getting the hardbacks. I have the paperbacks of The Way of Kings and Words of Radiance, and I am switching them out for hardbacks. So I'm unhauling both. I don't know where The Way of Kings is, though, currently, so. But that is coming off my shelf, too. Fall of Ruin and Wrath by JLA. I have like 12 copies of this book, and I don't need that many copies. I think I only have like 3 more now, but they're ones that I want to keep. And this is the Alcrate edition. It's just standard purple edges and just not as special as my other ones that I have, so we're unhauling this one. I know we all fall victim to this because the publisher just wants to screw us out and make us spend more money, and we don't have to. And I didn't have to, but I did. And now I am unhauling them. And that is, I'm unhauling an edition of House of Sky and Breath and 2 editions of House of Flame and Shadow. Because I needed every different edition so that I could have all the bonus chapters, right? The ones that are online that I could just read online and not have every single edition taking up space on my shelf. So, we're unhauling these 3. I'm going to get better about that and just pick the ones that I really want the bonus chapters for, because I don't need 12 editions of this series. Some special editions that people are going to be like, Claire, what are you doing? Why are you getting rid of all of your special editions of this series? And that is Serpent in the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. This is the bookish box edition, and I just am so disappointed in it. Look at how dark that is. Like, you cannot see what it is on the cover. Like, all they had to do was brighten it up and it would be my favorite edition. But they didn't, so I'm unhauling it. I don't need it. And then also the Owl Crate editions of Serpent and Ashes. They're just very plain and not my favorite. I still have the Arcane editions. They don't seem like they're going to continue the series because they had a lot of hate on this edition, their editions that they did. I really love them, so I do hope that they do them eventually, but my lord, I've been talking to you guys for 43 minutes. 2 more stacks, guys. We're almost done. Okay, these are all getting unhauled, unread. I have A Dawn of Onyx and A Promise of Peridot by Kate Golden. Cassidy and Mel loved this book, like crying, screaming, throwing up. And then DNF book 2. So I've just heard the enjoyment of these go downhill after book 1, so I don't need them on my shelves. They can be audiobook reads. Just don't need them. And then next I have How Does It Feel and What Did You Do by Jeannie O'Reilly. I hated this cover, the indie edition. So when it got picked up, I was like, oh, perfect. Let me see what the hype is about. And I have yet to read them. So why do I own both of them? I don't need them. They're going to be KU books. That's what I've decided if I ever do decide to read them. Next we got Feybound. It's the Waterstones edition. It's really pretty. Haven't read it. Probably won't read it anytime soon, so we're getting rid of that one. Another bookish box edition, The Sanctuary of Shadows by Aurora Asher. I just have not heard great things about this book. I don't need to keep it on my shelf. Then I have A Kiss of Iron by Claire Sager, also from the bookish box, and I just don't like this edition. It's neon and I don't love it, and I don't know if you can tell, but my edges are uneven. They go at an angle. It goes like from here to here. Like, what is that binding? It's so bad. Some more broken binding books. We have The Ember Blade and The Shadow Casket by Chris Wooding. I'm out of my fantasy era. There's nothing more to say. So I don't need these on my shelves anymore. I'm not going to read them anytime soon. So they can go to a better home. Another Red Tower book, 5 Broken Blades. Pretty stencil edition. I just don't know anybody that liked it. I know Becca in the Books was enjoying it, but my trusted circle does not like this book. So I'm probably not going to like this book. So I'm just going to unhaul it and cut my losses. Like I said, I'm getting out of certain contemporary romances, and Colleen Hoover is included in that. I'm only keeping like my all-time favorite books from her, and anything unread is just going to be unread, and that is It Ends With Us and It Starts With Us. These are from Waterstones. They just have like sprayed edges, but they missed the top and the bottom. I don't know. I don't need them on my shelf anymore, so they're coming off. Then I have from a Crate, I have the Atlas series I am unhauling. These editions are so stunning. Like, look at those edges. They're just beautiful. But I'm not going to read the series anytime soon. I don't need them on my shelf. They can go to someone else and make someone else so happy. And I will be so happy for them, because they can have them. I don't need them. Another one that I read book 1 and gave it 5 stars, loved it to death, and then this author was not nice, and my want to read the rest of the series dwindled so far down, and I have yet to pick up anything, so I'm going to be unhauling them, and that's whatever the series, Wicked Saints by Emily A. Duncan, Ruthless Gods, and Blessed Monsters. These are the Owl Crate editions that I love, but we just don't need them on our shelves anymore. It was also, I think, not Raylo, but Kylo inspired, which was why I picked it up in the first place and loved it, but then the author was just not a good person. So we don't need to support her and keep them on the shelves. Also, we have The North Wind by Alexandria Warwick. Picked it up on the whim. Haven't read it. Probably won't read it anytime soon, so we're just unhauling it. Getting it off the shelf. My last fantasy books, I have The Coward and the Warrior by Stephen Orion. My best friend gave me these editions because she got special editions. She loved this duology, but I'm just not reading fantasy anymore. So, I'm sorry, Mana, but these can go to a better home. Some more romances. We have Do Your Worst and At First Sight by Olivia Dade and Rosie Danon. These are Afterlight editions. Like I said, I just don't need them on my shelves anymore. They would be audiobook reads, and I would most likely not want to keep them on my shelf after that. So we're just going to take them off now. We're almost done. We've got like 4 more books. We have To Kill a Kingdom by Catherine Quinn. I bought this because it was when all the hype of like doing sprayed standard editions were coming out, and this one was Entangled, which is also YA, and I'm not in my YA era anymore. So we're unhauling this. This can go to a better home. I think book 2 just came out. And lastly, it's a full series. So it's a trilogy. It is, I think it's called The Prison Healer. I think that's what the series is called. This is the Fairy Loot editions for the entire trilogy. I picked up I got book 1 in a book box. Never read it. But at the time I was a completionist, so I bought books 2 and 3 as they were releasing. And have still yet to read it, and have no desire to pick it up at any point in time in the near future. So we're going to rehome these, because I know someone else will love these and enjoy these way more than me. That is my unhaul. Now I gotta clean up this mess. It's so bad. So, if you want to let me know you were here, leave me a book stack emoji because of the bajillion piles of book stacks that are surrounding me. Let me know down in the comments below what books you've unhauled recently. Like I said, I apologize if I am unhauling any of your favorite books. It is no hard feelings to you or the book. What is working for me in my life currently, and these books are not, so they're coming off the shelves. I would really appreciate you give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Until next time, guys, bye!